Welcome back to another GTN Coaches Corner. Every Monday, we answer your triathlon training or racing related questions. Just fire in any questions that you have into the comment section below this video or any video for that matter using the hashtag GTN Coaches Corner. This week, we are talking cadence, strength training, planning your next season, swim technique, and even the lifespan of your running shoes. So, let's dive into this. First question is from a regular of GTN Coaches Corner, Jamie Furman. Said, I'm seeking advice on how to improve cycling cadence. I find I tend to decline on my harder interval style workouts, which I know is inefficient. And sometimes this leads to the cycle of death on Zwift, where the power feels harder, but I pedal slower and it just gets worse and worse. And obviously, you could be in erg mode, which it sounds very much like you are. Now, erg mode is fantastic. Essentially means that it locks you into a power for that workout or interval and means that you don't have to diligently be looking at the screen or your head unit to check what power you're putting out. It just does it for you. And if you change your cadence, doesn't matter. The power output is the same. It keeps that resistance constant throughout those efforts and changes them as and when those intervals come. The problem is, as the effort gets harder and you get more tired, your cadence can start to drop, you can struggle to get over that gear, and there's no let off in that power. And that is where you can end up falling into that cycle of death, as you call it. So, what's the solution here? Turn erg mode off, or on things like Zwift, you can actually just knock the power down a touch. So, you may be requiring you to power 100% FTP, you can just knock that down to 80% or whatever you feel necessary. Irrelevant of erg mode, a lower cadence on harder intervals isn't necessarily uncommon. Do stay tuned on this one though, because we do have a video coming up which explores lower cadences versus the higher cadences. And this all sort of comes about, and obviously people looking at their cadences due to this optimal cadence of 100 RPM being banded about. Now, this 100 RPM comes from World Tour elite riders who are training 15, 20 plus hours per week purely on the bike. Most of us mere mortals are training nowhere near that. Now, high cadence versus low cadence almost uses different systems to a degree. If you think low cadence is more of a muscular strain, whereas a high cadence is more of a cardiovascular strain. So when you go from this lower cadence and start suddenly trying to shift to the high cadence, it can be really tiring because you're essentially changing almost the systems that you're using. To do that change can take some time, and that's where these elite cyclists training 15, 20 hours per week, they can do that. They've got the time to be able to make those shifts and those adaptations. For us mere mortals training a handful of hours per week on the bike, we just don't have that time to play with and make those changes. So actually, maybe just accepting that you've got a slightly lower cadence is fine. That's your optimal cadence, and really trying to get those key workouts in rather than wasting the time. That said, do play around with cadences. It's just good to mix things up so you don't end up too stale. And actually, you may find that you have a more preferred optimal cadence. Like I said, do stay tuned because we've got a very good video coming up on this, which goes into some depth. Next question, Ben Tidswell. Hey guys, preparing for my first 70.3 in June. I'm having trouble incorporating strength training with base training. In general, is it best to pair intensity on the same day, i.e. leg day with a speed run, upper body with a speed swim, or is it best to spread the intensity out through the week? In honesty, it can be a real juggling act. I would ordinarily recommend that you don't try teaming them up with one another, because the problem is then you are actually really hammering one body part in one day. So for instance, if you did the gym in the morning on the legs and then went to do a speed workout in the evening on the run, you might be hampering the benefits and the quality you could get from that workout. So I'd normally try and mix it up. So you're almost doing, I don't know, arm workout in the morning, run session in the evening, and so on. That said, the training effect of doing some of these workouts on the same day or close to can be really good. I mean, ultimately in triathlon, we are doing a lot of these disciplines under fatigue. So actually having done gym workouts on that day or the day before and then doing a workout that trains or uses the same muscles can actually be really good just to simulate the effects and that fatigue. Even though if you do space them out it's likely that you're going to experience some DOMs, so you will need to get used to just training through very sore muscles. So like I say, it's a bit of a juggling act, and you may one week want to change the order of those gym sessions with the other sessions and vice versa. But yeah, it's a tricky one. Next question though, Michael Braham said, thanks for the great content. My question is, what's the best approach to setting realistic goals for race day and training to suit? I'm new to endurance sports and my body is still getting used to the volume of training. I'm wary of overtraining for unrealistic goals, but I do have time on my side and would like to not only finish, but work on race day goals. Brilliant time to be asking these questions. We've discussed this quite a bit recently in Coach's Corner. A lot of people asking about next season and planning races and goals. What I would personally do, and maybe this is going a bit overboard, but I would actually get a little calendar, plan it out, and list down all the potential races, the races that you would like to do into that calendar. That way, you can then see how well they're spaced out, and actually if any of those races don't work and they're hindering one another because they're too close to one another. And then it's highlighting which are your highest priority races. And to do that, I would call them A, B, and C races. A being your key races, the highest priority, and C being the lowest, such as just a fun weekend race, local race, and maybe you might even use it for training. Now, to reiterate, as we've discussed numerous times on Coach's Corner, those A races shouldn't happen too regularly during the year. You should really only be factoring in 2 or 3 A races in the year that you're really peaking your training and your fitness for, if you really want to perform at them and not overtrain. Then obviously build your training predominantly around those A races, using the B and C races to help you towards that, and maybe as little benchmark goals, but also with those A races factoring in the recovery periods and tapers into those events and recovery after, obviously. As you're new to the sport, I would really recommend that you start slowly. It can be really easy to just get carried away and excited early on and start doing a ton of mileage. I've honestly found with countless people over the years, having coached people, that if you hold back, almost overly hold back at the start and try and be really patient but consistent, it really builds those foundations well that you can then start adding a lot more after the first month or 2 down the line. Now, obviously you're talking about trying to perform well, not just finishing events. If this is the case and you're trying to juggle a lot of events, I'd probably recommend actually seeking advice from a coach, someone that you can talk through this season plan with and really come up with a good, solid program and plan for the season ahead. But yeah, I think there's probably quite a few people in a similar situation to yourself right now. Next question from NG Dogs 1. Is there an optimal angle for your feet when kicking? I noticed that Mark points his feet inwards when he kicks. I tried to do the same during my last swim session and I was able to feel the water much better after I made that adjustment. Good spot. I thought I'd answer this one personally. Honestly, it's not something I try to do. That's just my wonky feet, and having swum for years and they're just overly floppy and supple. And yeah, it's just a product of that. I wouldn't say there's an optimal angle for your feet. It's obviously not something that I consciously think about. I mean, my big toes maybe just about brush one another, but it's not a hard knock as they go past one another. I think it kind of almost, by them being a little bit more floppy, it almost increases the surface area of the foot. So yeah, you're probably feeling the water a bit better and a bit more propulsion from that. Sadly, supple ankles or floppy ankles doesn't translate too well to running. Obviously you want quite nice stiff ankles that you can bounce off when you're running, and also they can be a bit treacherous when you're going off-road and putting your feet down potholes and whatnot. So yeah, focus on flexibility of the ankles, but also add in strength work and proprioception work, which you can do on like Boso balls and things like that to really just help the strength of the foot for the running. If you are trying to improve the flexibility of the ankles, one thing that I found has helped people massively over the years is actually doing some fin work when they're swimming. So just putting on some flippers, doing a kick set, and that extra surface area of the foot helps just stretch the ankle out that little bit more. But yeah, actually a really good question. Steph Janssen, nice one. However, GTN Coach's Corner, maybe explain exactly what we need to do with this one. Maybe a butterfly 101. Now this is in response to our recent butterfly video where we're talking about basically using butterfly swimming to make you stronger. for freestyle. Something that I do a lot, or used to do a lot during my training. And yeah, hands up, we haven't explained in that video necessarily how to do butterfly. There was a lot to cover, but that's because we've got another video that does exactly that. So yeah, you can head on over to that using the link that's in the description down below this video. But for now, here's a few key pointers from that specific video.
Your arms will provide the majority of your propulsion for this stroke. Once you push off the wall, start your stroke from a streamlined position, pull both your arms back towards your legs simultaneously. Maintain a high elbow position, trying to keep your hands and forearms angled downwards for as long as possible throughout the duration of the pull phase. Then straighten your arms to finish the stroke off past your hips. As you complete the pull, lift your hands up out of the water before using your shoulders combined with momentum of your body movement to draw them out and around in front of your head to start the next stroke. Try to keep your arms and hands clear over the surface of the water during the recovery phase, and to get your hands as far out in front of you as you can before starting the next stroke. Your thumbs should be almost touching as your hands enter the water. Looking forwards and down at the bottom of the pool and pushing your head slightly downwards will help you to bring your arms over more quickly and keep them from catching the water during this recovery phase. A well-timed dolphin kick is essential for an efficient butterfly stroke. 2 kicks are performed every stroke cycle, one as your hands enter the water and another as they exit. Generally, the first kick as your hands enter the water is less forceful and is for maintaining good body position, whilst the kick performed as your hands exit the water needs to be much more powerful as it helps maintain momentum to keep you travelling forwards as you lift your head to breathe and recover your arms over the top of the water. To perform dolphin kick, you must drive from your hips, keeping your lower legs relaxed, very similar to front crawl except they're moving together. You'll need to use your core and glutes to help drive your ankles downwards and extend your legs, with your toes relaxed and pointed in order to press down on the water, resulting in that forward propulsion. It's important to perform this motion quickly and forcefully to generate efficient power. Breathing while swimming butterfly is notoriously challenging. However, with practice, it's possible to improve your breathing technique and swim efficiently. The key is timing your head movement into and out of the water. Maintain a neutral, down and forward looking head position until your hands are below your body, reaching the most powerful pull phase of the stroke. Then, as your hands start to push back on the water, lift your head to breathe, remembering to only lift your head as far as you need to in order to get in enough air. Your chin should never exit the water. As your arms drive backwards and your legs kick powerfully down to propel you forwards, you can maintain this head up position until you've taken your breath, ready for the next stroke. Then, as your arms come around on the recovery, tuck your head in to help make more space to get your arms out in front of you, and start breathing out as soon as your head is in the water, ready for that next in-breath.
Brilliant. Well, best of luck to anyone trying to do butterfly. It was never my forte, but yeah, as I said, fantastic for helping with strength for your freestyle swimming. Final question from Sandy Telfer. When would you recommend changing your running shoes? Strava says between 600 to 800K, then you should change your shoes. Yeah, exactly bang on. I would normally say somewhere around the 600 to 800K mark, or 400 to 500 miles. Yeah, and I would recommend that not only for injury prevention, but also for performance. When you run in dead shoes, you don't get much in response from them. So you'll definitely notice it when you do put on a new pair of shoes. Now, just to be clear here, judging your shoes simply by the tread on the bottom isn't enough. Some treads will look absolutely fine, but the shoes are well past it. And that means that you could be absorbing a lot more impact than you should be. And considering that you can experience up to 3 or 4 times your body weight through each stride when you're running, that could have some serious consequences. Now, I know some people keep track of the mileage that they do in their shoes. So as you've alluded to, Strava suggesting 600 to 800K, you can, within Strava, add in your running shoes and then once you've racked up 600, 800K clearly within Strava, you know it's time to get a new pair of shoes. And I believe even Strava notifies you. You can also do this on other devices. I think Training Peaks also has a way of doing it. Another way, a little bit more simple, is just writing on with permanent marker on the shoes on the side the date that you got them, just as a reminder. And then after X amount of months or weeks or whatever, you roughly know how much mileage you'd be doing week in, week out, or month in, month out, and that is probably time to replace those shoes. So yeah, a really good question, and something a lot of people overlook, and it's amazing how often people complain of injuries and then only realise a couple of months later, oh yeah, I should have replaced my shoes ages ago. So yeah, maybe time for everyone to have a little check right now. Well, fantastic. Thanks ever so much for all your questions. Remember, just use that hashtag GTN Coaches Corner below this video or below any other video. If you enjoyed today's video, please do give it a thumbs up, give it a like, and don't forget to give us a subscribe.